Have you ever noticed you can have a problem, think about it all day, and then feel absolutely drained afterwards? And to top it all off, you didn't even solve the problem. We're going to talk about what the heck is going on and how we might be unintentionally training our minds to overthink. I want to look at three key ideas to help better understand where overthinking is coming from and how we can approach it, and give you some evidence based tools to help minimize the effect that it's having on your life. The first thing to realize when we talk about overthinking in the context of cognitive behavioral therapy is overthinking could be a response to a threat. In other words, when people tell me they overthink, it's very rare that they tell me they feel no anxiety. Overthinking is generally closely tied to there's being on edge, there's being a level of alertness, there's a feeling of anxiety, and the idea is I'm scanning for danger. If this happens, I'll do this. And if that happens, I'll say this. And if she says this, I'll respond this way. And I keep thinking about different ways so that when danger comes, then I will be ready. And guess what happens? They feel absolutely drained. And sometimes even when that big event comes, it's not nearly as bad as they made it out to be in their heads. Think about a presentation. Think about going to a meeting where your supervisor said, "We need to talk." The problem here is that thinking uses energy. You could literally sit on the couch, not engage in any actual behavior. You're not out there digging ditches. You're not out there doing construction work. You're just sitting and thinking, and you can exhaust yourself. Because what you do with overthinking is you're activating your sympathetic nervous system, increasing cortisol, the stress hormone, increasing adrenaline, increasing your heart rate. And what is the consequence of being in a heightened, stressful state? The exhaustion afterwards. So that is the predecessor to understand what could be going on. Here is something that keeps people stuck. And this is the thing that once people understand this, whether it be in a coaching basis, in a therapy basis, they make huge grounds. Check this out. So there's this sneaky thing that our mind does. When there is something that makes me feel anxious, I will start to think about it. In CBT, there are these cognitive distortions, these errors of thinking that we will teach our clients. Some of them you might be familiar with. One is called fortune telling. I'm going to predict what's going to happen, even though it hasn't happened yet. Oh, when I go to the party, it's going to be so bad. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to make small talk. And oh, my boss is going to be there and he's going to ask me about my hobbies and I don't have any hobbies. So here I am creating these scenarios in my head. Another one is the should, right? The should, I should have done this. I should have said this. I could have done that. Had I done this back then, I would be here now. Here's what happens. You feel anxious. Then the mind will start to worry. As you worry, your anxiety decreases. And now you're screwed. Because you've just taught your mind the way to stop anxiety, the way to minimize anxiety, is to start worrying. And your brain learns, oh, if I want Daniel to stop feeling anxious, I just need to think about it over and over and over and over again. Short-term relief of anxiety. Guess what happens in the long term? Increase of anxiety, because that emotion never gets processed. It actually gets pushed down and suppressed, because worrying might feel like you're being productive. It might feel like you're solving the equation, but you're not. And the worrying, because it's removing the anxiety, reinforces this cycle, so you're more likely to worry tomorrow, and your anxiety tomorrow is going to be worse than it is today, and next week it's going to be worse than it is tomorrow. This, my friends, in psychology, we call a negative reinforcement. Negative in a medical sense means the absence of something or the removal of something. So think positive as presence. Negative is the removal of the anxiety. And reinforcement is whatever behavior led to that removal will get reinforced. So if I worried and the anxiety temporarily went down, I'm more likely to worry again. If I doom scrolled and the anxiety went down, I'm more likely to doom scroll again. And every time we do this, we strengthen that connection in our brain, getting stuck in that world of constant worrying. And then we feel exhausted. And then my clients go, "Oh, Daniel, I need to unwind. I need to decompress." And I go, "Sure, yeah. Well, what does that look like for you?" Well, doom scrolling and video games and watching YouTube and staying in bed for a couple of hours even though I'm awake. And that's how the cycle continues. So, here's another concept I want you to think about, and it's calming the mind through the body. One of the things that I'm very passionate in is emphasizing the mind and body connection. When I talk to clients, especially my male clients, I'll say something like, "What are you feeling right now?" And it's really interesting because they'll use very physical words. And again, I'm biased because I have a small sample size. But generally, the females that I see are more likely to, it's like they have a greater vocabulary of emotions. I feel melancholic, I feel sad, I feel anxious, I feel dread. With a lot of men that I talk to, it's, I feel this pressure. I feel this weight on my chest. Daniel, I feel like the walls are closing in. I feel like I just got punched in the gut. I feel like I got slapped in the face. So there's something about, at least in my experience, a physiological pattern being associated with emotions way quicker than an emotional one or stereotypical emotional one. Because of that, and look, why is that, right? When we think about the impact of exhaustion, the impact of cortisol, when I think about something over and over again, I'm essentially increasing my heart rate. But it's not like exercise. It's not like I'm doing cardio. Why? When I'm out running, when I'm jogging, my heart rate will increase. I increase the amount of oxygen that's being supplied to my organs. Here's the key thing. My muscles then use that oxygen. When I overthink, when I feel anxious and I'm panicking and I'm freaking out, my muscles are not using oxygen. So here's a tip that I want to give you the next time you find yourself in a state of rumination or overthinking. Number one, separate yourself from the thought. What does that mean? It's as simple as going, "Man, I am an overthinker. I am a person who thinks excessively." Or I am a person who tends to ruminate. Right? Or imagine, I am an angry person versus I am someone who struggles with their anger. When we separate the individual from the thought, we realize that you are not the problem. This habit, this way of thinking, this perception is the problem. And that is fixable. Right? And really what I want you to do is to get curious. What are areas of my life that spark the most amount of curiosity? Is it work related? So social anxiety. Is it related to making a certain amount of money, performing a certain way in school? Is it ego related? Is it related to a particular person that I have in my life? And really the first step is become curious and observe like a researcher, where is the biggest anxiety or rumination stemming from? A second thing that works tremendously well, obviously this is just a video, so it won't do justice like being in a coaching setting or being in a therapeutic setting, but is doing a thought monitoring record. Very simply put, you write down the thought, then you write down evidence for the thought, and then evidence against the thought. And the idea is, if the thought is, "Look, I'm going to embarrass myself at that big meeting," what is evidence that suggests this is going to happen? Note, I use the word evidence, not opinions, not I think. Real evidence of, well, we had a meeting a week ago and I said something dumb and people laughed. But then you also have to put evidence against. And you say, well, I've been to 10 meetings before and they haven't gone that terribly. Or even though I didn't look forward to them, they didn't nearly end up as bad as I thought they would. Okay, so that's what we call thought monitoring record. Lastly, this one, we want to go directly at your nervous system. There's this concept I've heard floating around, which is regulate your nervous system, which when I hear that, I think we need to activate your parasympathetic nervous system. We need to activate the part of your body that says, hey, it's okay. We can calm down our mind. We can calm down our heart rate. How the heck do we do this? what I would recommend, and again, this is not advice, this is not a therapeutic setting, purely for educational purposes. When I have clients in front of me and they've talked to their doctor, they don't have any cardiac heart problems, we talk about moderate to intense exercise. In other words, can we get a level of exercise where we can increase your heart rate, where you can get those feel-good endorphins that is safe for wherever you are in your level of exercising. Some people exercise 4 to 5 times a week, others not at all. And for the people who are saying, what about going out for a walk? That's fine, right? But I think the next level is, can you walk at an incline? Can you walk a little bit faster? We want to put your heart under some stress. Why? If we practice and we voluntarily put our heart under stress, our heart is going to adapt and become accustomed to that level of stress. It's going to learn, hey, cortisol stress isn't a bad thing. Adrenaline is not a bad thing. And if I prep my heart to go fast voluntarily, research shows when I'm at work, when I'm in school, and something unexpected happens, my ability to tolerate distress will increase. We can call this distress tolerance. We can call this emotional resiliency. And when we think of overthinking is, I've got a lot of energy and it has nowhere to go. Okay, I'll put it into this problem and I'll think about it over and over again. Or I've got a lot of energy. Let me do something that forces me to focus on that thing, especially if I can increase my heart rate, so that I can form these new connections in my brain that go, 1, if I have energy, I can focus on other things than my thoughts. 2, I want to do something that increases my heart rate. So I change the relationship that I have with stress. And if I can change the way I think about stress, and stress isn't something that I'm trying to get rid of or something that's bad, but something that is useful at the appropriate time, that, folks, is a step in the right direction. If you want to understand your own patterns and figure out how to work with your brain rather than against it, make sure you follow, subscribe, so you don't miss complimentary material. Thanks, everybody. Take care of yourselves and stay safe.